This is the great Lord and Master, Osiron the Eternal, for part 2 to the double cube of Lord Osiron. This is a very important video to make because the correlations to that double cube structure and the Vortex math wheel are stunning. It's basically that structure is the Vortex math wheel in the cube form. Exactly, and I'm going to show you how that works, and this may possibly even help those guys out, Marco Rodin and Randy Powell, because as far as I know, I don't know that anything has actually been done with the concepts of Vortex math. I mean, I haven't heard of anything actually being created with it, so that leads me to believe that something is holding up the works. Then again, I don't know, maybe, there could be stuff made, but as far as I know, it's only theory on paper right now. But what we have here is, we have the Vortex math wheel. I'll explain that a little bit if you don't know what it is. And over here, again, we have the double cube of Lord Osiron. And the title of this one is Vortex math wheel as a cube, part 2 of Osiron's double cube. Okay, now I'll give a brief explanation of what this is here, just for those who don't know what this is. But if you want a more in-depth explanation of Vortex math, Randy Powell has an excellent presentation, as well as Marco Rodin has presentations about this that get into the finer details of it. But the basics are this. This grid here is a circle, and it has the numbers, it has 0 through 9 around it, and I actually have a video that explains this, that the 0 is implied by the position of the 1, because if you just if you built it 1 through 9, the 1 would be on top. But because of the way it is, and the 1 where it is, it's implied that 0 was actually put first, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 fell into the 0 space. You know what I mean? But they also say 0 is in the middle here, and that definitely could be. But over here we're going to see something that might change that. But anyways, that's... Now how this is formed is every number of the single digits, when you add it, add it to itself, and you keep doing that, it produces this. So an example being 1 plus 1 is 2, and I get that line. 2 plus 2 is 4, you get that line. 4 plus 4 is 8, you get that line. 8 plus 8 is 16, which reduces to 7, and you get that line. 16 plus 16 is 32, and that reduces to 5, and you get this line. And 32 and 32 is 64, and it goes back up to 1, and it starts over again. And then the next one is like, 64 is like 128, and that reduces to 2, and all so on and so forth. And all the numbers keep doing that to infinity, and they stay on this wheel. And the numbers 3, 6, and 9 never get used in that repeating loop. And below here you're going to see number groups, these number groups, and what those are is simply, if you take any of these numbers here, and this works both ways, backwards and forwards, but if you add 3 to it, so 1, then you add 3, you got 1, 2, 3, you get 4. Add 3 more, you get 7, 1, 2, 3. And that is a number group that stays that way. And this goes, if you're going forward, these numbers go forward with 3. But now if you add 6, if you're going forward and you add 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's 7, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 1. 6, the 6 always goes back, it goes in the opposite direction of you going. So if you're going forward, 6 is going backwards. But if you go backwards, see, if you go backwards with it, 1, 2, 3, it reverses. So it goes backwards. But 6 also reverses then too. So if you go backwards 6 spaces, it will go forward. If you go forward 6 spaces, it goes backwards. And this could be the shearing effect that they're talking about in more advanced vortex math. But that's what the number groups mean. And those number groups reduce to 12, 15, and 18, and then finally 3, 6, and then 9. So that's what those mean by the number groups. Now, one more thing about the vortex math. Now they do explain this in this series, in their presentations, but this, you know, with this series, Tarot and the True Tree of Life, and all that's gone on, I got it drawn up. See, if you add the numbers of every line that connects, in this case 2 and 1 becomes 3, in this case 4 and 2 is 6, in this case 8 and 4 is 12, which becomes 3, and on, every line does this. You get this, you get 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6. So all the numbers of the lines that add up to each other reduce to 3 or 6. And you're going to notice that 4 of the outer lines, like the 4 outer lines, have 2 3s and 2 6s, and there's only 2 inner ones that actually cross the middle, and there's only one of those, you know, one of each of those. It's 3 and 6, so you got 4 outers and then 2 inners, and it gives you 3, 6, and the line's reduced. But now over here, you got to see something. Can you even see this? Yes, you can. Now, you're going to see I have the cube drawn up in a different way. I got blue and red lines here. And there's a reason why I used the color combinations the way I did. I didn't just draw that because it looks nice. What I did was I just used a simple formula, you know, basically I kept it congruent. So this starts it off right here with 1, and 1 is a feminine number, which is blue, so anything that comes from that is blue. So the line that comes off of this is blue. So it's blue, now it's a 2, that goes into a 2, and this is a red number, masculine, so the line that comes off of that is red. And it goes through the 3 here. It doesn't stop there, it goes right through it to 4, following the same principle of vortex math. So it goes 2 to 4, red, 4 is red, so that goes to 8 when you double it, boom. And then 8 and 8 is 16, which goes to 7, still a masculine number, so it's red. But this now turns into a feminine number, reduced 7, so it turns blue again. So it goes back through 6 to 5, which is a feminine number. And then back to 1, and then it starts over again. And it keeps going down, following the same exact vortex math formula that produces this grid. This produces this thing in the cube. And this does the same thing. This is why I have this separated in the colors I do. Because you got 1 is feminine, so the line that comes off that is blue. 2, the same thing, red. 4 is red. 8 is red. 7 is blue. 5 is blue. And then 1 again, it repeats. That's why that's like that. And you're going to notice too, see the lines never stop on the 3 or the 6, they only pass through it, okay? So when you're going 1 to 2, and then you double 2 to 4, then 4 to 8, then 8 to 16, then 16 to 32, then 32 to 64, they always cross the 3, 6 line. But they do it at the same time that the vortex math wheel does it. I'm going to try to show this simultaneously if I can. So 1 to 1, 1 to 2, here is a blue line, and 1 to 2, here is a blue line. Now 2 to 4, here is a red line, and it crosses 3 here. And 2 to 4 is a red line, and it crosses 3. Now the very next one, 4 to 8, crosses 6, and it's a red line. Here, 4 to 8 crosses 6, and it's a red line. Right? And then 8 to 7 doesn't do anything, crosses the middle. But then 7 to 5 crosses 6, and here 7 to 5 is a blue line that crosses 6. In the next line, 5 to 1 crosses 3, and 5 to 1 again crosses 3. So this structure here, the double cube of Lord Osiron, perfectly mirrors the Vortex math wheel in every way. You know what I mean? So this basically is the Vortex math wheel in a cube form, and it's doing this. And the only real difference is there's 2 cross points here instead of 1 in the Vortex math sigil. You know what I mean? So it's possible, again, like I said, because I don't know that anything has actually been created in the real world with Vortex math. So it's possible that this structure will help those guys take it to the next level. But then again, but now over here you see a little diagram down here on the bottom. There's another way to draw these lines. If you connect the opposite numbers, okay, in this case 4 and 2 equals 6, in this case 5 and 1 equals 6. Those are 2 red lines that are in the feminine world of the 3. So the blue here represents the 3 sphere, and the connecting lines are red. Now on the bottom, if you add 7 plus 5, that ultimately reduces to 3. 7 and 5 is 12 and it becomes 3. 8 and 4 is 12 and becomes 3, and that's in the world of the red. Okay? So now you got the red center here for masculine, but all the connecting lines reduced to 3. It's exact opposite. And if you add 3 and 3, that becomes 6. And if you add 6 and 6, that becomes 12, which is 3. So this thing is completely mirrored in every way. It produces its opposite when you do that. That's just another way to use the masculine and feminine principle in this structure, because it's not arbitrary, as I explained. It has logic to it, and it's consistent and congruent, and there's 2 ways to look at it. Just like this, I mean, when you the lines that connect on this, like, they're all congruent with the angle. You know, every line that forms on a 3, you got 9 to 3, and that produces this angle. Every line that corresponds to that angle is feminine, and this way is masculine, like that. And every line corresponds to masculine. But those guys also explain that in their presentations. Yeah, I just wanted to draw it up here and show you visually what that does, how it takes the material numbers and turns them into 3 and 6, you know, which is Kundalini. Alright, now, one thing that I discovered, also, one thing I want to get to real quickly is the number interplay with these things is amazing. Like, if you, in any of these connecting line numbers, if you add 3 and 6 to them, it produces a mirror image of itself. And there's so many variations, I don't want to get into those minute details. I get into that a little bit on the first part of this video, but it does it with everything. Every time you add a 3 or a 6 to any of these other numbers, it produces something else, a mirror image somehow with itself on here. It's absolutely amazing. This structure is really, really perfect. It's great. Now what you're going to see is a bunch of squares here. And some of you may recognize this sigil here. You're going to see how that's not really what you think it is, unless you're an evil asshole. Alright, now the number groups, again I said the number groups are 147, 258, and 369. Well, as I was drawing these up yesterday, I didn't even notice something until like a half an hour or so after I drew it. If I put the numbers here, now these are the number groups exactly as you see them. You got 147, 258, and then 369. See, the first time I drew this, just to add contrast to the drawing, I made all the numbers green. And then the outer numbers, I used 369, the colors, to represent the colors. And there's a reason why I changed that I'll get to in a second. But those number groups, if you put them across ways like that, all it does is write the numbers out in the normal progression of 1 through 9 in the normal order the other way. So the number groups, if you do that, the opposite way is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's nothing but simple numbers. It's the numbers without any alteration whatsoever at all. Okay, and I didn't even notice that until after, because I was just looking at it. It's like, wait a minute, that fucking just produced the numbers exactly as they're written out without any alteration whatsoever. It's just the other way that it produces the number groups that interact with 3 and 6. Okay, now, as I was looking at this, pondering it, I noticed, you see how these lines produced a crisscross pattern? I noticed that this looks a lot like a sigil that I have seen in occult circles. I didn't know which one it was at the time. My dog's banging to come in. I didn't know which one it was at the time, but then after I was looking, I figured out it's the planetary seal of Saturn. Okay? And how you get that planetary seal, and this is what this is down here, the planetary seal for Saturn. And how you get that seal is with this Saturn cube here, the magic cube of Saturn. And the number patterns, and what you do is you just connect the dots. 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, then to 9, and it produces this this sigil here that's perfectly symmetrical. It really is a great looking sigil as far as that goes. But what it does with the numbers is absolutely profane. You know what I mean? It's basically this sigil here, the square for Saturn, as you'll see in a minute, is basically a sigil for atheism. It's a sigil for the destruction of Kundalini. And it corresponds 100% perfectly and congruently to everything that I've said in this series, is that the Kabbalists are charlatans and frauds. Because what this does is cuts the material matrix off from Kundalini grid. It's imprisoning the goddess Sophia. The Sophia myth, this is the sigil for the Sophia myth, imprisoning the goddess in the material matrix. Because what you get when you do that is, you see the numbers, all these numbers, every way add up to 666. So if you add 8, 1, and 6, it becomes, 15 and 6. Every number does it. Every way adds up to 666. But if you just take the normal numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or the number groups 1, 4, 7, 2, 5, 8, 3, 6, 9, if you go one way, it produces 666 for the material world. But if you go the other way, it produces 369. 369. So it's showing a perfect natural balance and harmony with the material matrix, which is electricity, and Kundalini, which is the divine principle of the goddess, working beautifully and in harmony. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that all the angles and opposites on the Saturn square add up to 10. So 8 plus 2 is 10, 6 plus 4 is 10, 7 plus 3 is 10, and 9 plus 1 is 10. And they all do that. But that does that on this square too. Because remember, 10 isn't a negative number, it's a single unit. It reduces to 1, 10 is just 1. So 9 plus, so if you do that on the natural square, we can call that the natural square, because all this is the natural order of numbers. So 9 plus 1 is 10, 7 plus 3 is 10, 6 plus 4 is 10, 8 plus 2 is 10. So this does that too, with 5 right in the middle. But you're also going to notice something with these squares. On this square, all the masculine numbers take the outer corners. Okay? And when you do that, the inner is the feminine numbers. The inner numbers are the feminine. So this is sort of suggesting that the masculine is imprisoning the feminine inside itself with the Saturn square here. But the natural order is this. If you write out the numbers naturally without any alteration of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the feminine takes the corners and the center, and the masculine numbers take the supporting role of the inner numbers. So 2, 4, 6, and 8 are the inner squares here, and the 1, 3, 7, 9 are the outer corners, and the 5 is right in the middle. It produces a perfect checkerboard of polarity, dark, whatever you want to do, but it's perfect and symmetrical in every way, and it's 100% natural. There is zero alteration with this. And it produces, one way is 666 and the other is Kundalini, material and Kundalini. It's perfect, absolutely as it is, without the slightest alteration. Now, one other way you could do this square over here is, if you take the number group 147, 258 and put those on the outer, and if you use the vortex math principle that those guys talk about in their thing, that 3 and 6 is always separated, a 9 is always separated by 3 and 6, something like that. But you got 9 in the middle and 3 and 6 on either side. If you apply that principle to the square, and what you do is you put 9 in the middle, okay, then every row adds up to, if you add it up, it goes 693. If you add it crossways, it goes 396. So there's a polarity interchange there too. All Kundalini in this case. But on this, it's cornered opposites all produce 9. So 7 plus 2 is 9, 8 plus 1 is 9, 3 plus 6 is 9, and 4 plus 5 is 9. So all cornered opposites are 9 on this way. But this is a slight alteration from the natural. Okay, but this is just using the, this is sort of like a Kundalini alone representation. This is the material world and Kundalini mixed together representation. This would sort of be the tree of the great Lord here. This would be the material world, or the jewel combined back with the divine tree here. This is the fucking tree of death and stagnation, the Saturn square. This is 100% fucking occult charlatanism, 100% perversion of nature. This is, for all intents and purposes, fucking an evil structure created by douchebags, basically. But there's a lot of people who would think this is great, because there's nothing wrong with Saturn. You know, Saturn has a lot of powerful properties, but like I've demonstrated in this entire series, the Jews pervert everything. The Kabbalists are frauds and charlatans. That's assuming this is Kabbalistic. It's possible it's not, but I think it probably is. You know? But whoever made up the Saturn square is an asshole, basically. Basically, you know, because this is nature and it does basically the same thing, but in the natural order: 0, 1, 2. Remember, you know, this is the natural order. The natural order of progression. So, the imprisoning of the goddess Sophia. You're seeing the squares here. This is... Oh, one thing I do want to get to, this may be the last of it. Now, if you add up on all of these squares, do this. If you add up 666, 369, or any of these outer numbers, they all reduce to 36. They all come to 36. You got 36, 36, and even the Saturn square reduces to 36 with 666 on both. You can't, but that's showing that you can't get away from the truth. It's sort of like the Sophia myth, the goddess Sophia myth. You know, Sophia was imprisoned within the structure of Yahweh. Yahweh imprisoned Sophia. But he can't kill Sophia because life can't exist without her magic, without her divinity. So basically what they do is imprison her and enslave her and then siphon off her power for their own evil ends. And this is what this shows. The Saturn square breaks away completely from Kundalini, but it imprisons the goddess and exploits the divine power that she is, that can't, because they can't kill that. They can't kill beauty. They can't kill the truth. Because if they do, life ends, and they end with it. It all ends. So all they can do is imprison her and exploit her powers. That's it. But this, the natural cube, is divine in every way. It's perfect. It's unadulterated. It shows the blend of Kundalini and the material world, Kundalini and electricity working in harmony, perfect balance. In this role, the 9 takes on the presentation of a feminine number because it's an odd number. So it's perfectly balanced, but it's also slightly feminine dominant because of the role the 9 plays here. Okay? So you got 5 units in this case that are feminine and 4 that are masculine. And well, what is 5? 5 is the feminine aspect of the elements with Kundalini. We see that in the true tree. 4 is the elements, or Yahweh. This is perfect. This is natural. This is balanced. This is wholesome. This is sublime. This is an atrocity. This is fucking perversion. This is, you know, people use this probably thinking they're doing good things, but so now if you see the Saturn sigil, you know it's the work of a fucking scumbag. So that should be it. I think I got everything. But this is the double cube of Lord Osiron as the Vortex math wheel, producing this electrical structure here that passes over 3 and 6, the Kundalini grid, in its structure. So thank you for watching, and namaste.